car shopping, any big purchase can be a stressful process if you've been through it, right? Nowadays, you don't even have to see something in person to buy it, right? You can do all your shopping online, and there's all these apps where you can purchase cars. And so you put in the filter, right? Your price range, the brands you're interested in, and you start scrolling. It's like a dating app, right? And inevitably, you come across deals where you're like, that doesn't sound right. You know, like a 2020 Lexus, 40,000 miles, and it's $15,000. Like, I'm not even going to inquire about that because that's not the right price range for that type of vehicle. That's kind of what it feels like happened with this Luka AD trade last night, right? After we all processed and made sure it was true, I think my initial reaction was, Luka must be a nightmare behind the scenes. He must just be an absolute nightmare. And now you're going to get spin control from both organizations. Apparently, Luka was up to 270 pounds. They're worried about his constant lack of conditioning and him re-signing that Supermax, which is now gone. Apparently, it's like he's going to lose like $45 million because he's no longer Supermax eligible, leaving the team that drafted him. There's so many rules. And we'll get to the CBA here in a minute. But yeah, that was my first thought. Like, man, Luka must be, he must be a nightmare behind the scenes, far more than we even imagine for Dallas to do this. And why did they do it on a Saturday night? There's just a lot of questions with not a lot of answers. Now, when you look at Dallas's decision-making and the history of that, it's shaky at best. That you have to acknowledge they've won a championship. They had Dirk. They had Luka, right? They're proactive, to say the least, right? But the decision-making's been 50-50. You could say that about a lot of organizations. I remember specifically after the Dirk championship, moving off Tyson Chandler and Jason Kidd to get younger. And it was like, oh, that was kind of an aggressive move. Didn't work out for him, right? Jalen Brunson, a lot of he said, she said stuff. His father, the Knicks management, all that stuff. It didn't work out, right? It wasn't handled probably the best from Dallas. And now you have this situation here where, again, why didn't they start a bidding war? Why was this? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. From the Lakers' perspective, look, you can't blame them for taking the risk. But again, I go back to that car analogy where here's another one. Y'all know I love these, right? We've all done this too, where you go into a store for something and then ultimately you buy something else because it was such a good deal, right? You're like, well, I'll just, that's a great price. And then you bring it home and you realize like, did I really need this? Like there was actually a reason why this was on clearance, but you don't figure it out until it's yours. And again, you can't blame the Lakers for taking this risk, but at the same time, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? When you look at him, he obviously doesn't fit with LeBron. That's the first thing that's going to come to mind, right? And then the second thing I would say is, I don't think he's going to mesh with JJ Redick. I really don't. Now, Laker fans, most of you are probably going to say, we're going to get JJ out of here. We're taking Luka, right? I don't blame you, again, for taking this risk. The second or third question I guess I would have is, does this send LeBron somewhere else? Again, like, remember LeBron, outside of Bradley Beal, the only other player in this league with a no trade clause. So that limits your options. He's clearly not going to want to go to very many destinations. Phoenix comes to mind. Go play with KD and Booker, right? And we know how aggressive Ishbia has been, but the Lakers don't want Brad Beal. I think more realistically, when you look at the Lakers, who can't be done wheeling and dealing now because they have a huge void in their front court, it's probably going to cost them one of Dalton Connect or Austin Reeves to go get a big man. Miles Turner, Robert Williams, right? There's some guys out there. But ultimately, the Lakers have kind of reset their timetable, right? They have essentially went out and got today's version of LeBron James in prime Luka Dončić. There are two very distinct differences, though, between prime LeBron and Luka, besides the obvious athleticism, right? One, LeBron could clamp up and lock down when he wanted to in his prime. I know his defense has lessened as he's aged, like most players do. But right, a prime LeBron could get stops. When he wanted to defend, he could defend. We haven't really seen that from Luka. Obviously, the physical attributes and stuff are different. But then two, say what you want about LeBron's passive aggressiveness with his teammates controlling his rosters. No one ever questioned LeBron's preparation, work ethic, or conditioning. Those are two major ones, right? But again, you can't really blame the Lakers for taking this risk for AD, who, he's having a great year, but we know his durability and motor issues. And so you flip over to what Dallas looks like now. And honestly, I think if healthy, they're probably better right now today. As crazy as that sounds, if you really watch, I'm not going to sit here and say I watch every Mavericks game, but Luka he can be a downer. He can really be a drag on a team, and you see the huge stat lines, right? That's what makes the headlines, the daggers, the charisma. He is the superstar, right? But when you watch night to night, there are so many plays where he dogs it. He stays behind the play, whining to the refs, bad body language as a team leader. Like if you have a healthy roster here with Kyrie, AD, you've got some nice role players around them, I think they're right there in the mix. But again, a healthy AD and Kyrie, you're crossing your fingers. And so I think as this ages, the trade may not be as lopsided as it seems, but it is, if you've watched the NBA for long enough here, the Lakers always land the big fish, and it always seems like at a discount, right? It's amazing. And it looks like both teams will probably have more moves to make to kind of settle this roster after this shocking move. But yeah, man, ultimately, you cannot blame the Lakers for accepting that deal and getting Luka at that price tag, taking that risk, resetting things, remaining relevant here now probably for the next 6 or 7 years. I had brought this up in a video last week. Luka, I don't think his window and his prime is as long as people make it out to be. They're like, he's 25, like da-da-da. He's been a pro since he was 16. And again, I am super wary of Dallas making this decision. Like, what do they know behind the scenes that everyone else doesn't know? Kind of like a Trojan horse, right? So you can't blame the Lakers for accepting this deal, but my gut tells me it's going to end up backfiring on them because you don't trade Luka for that price tag, right? You don't start a bidding war. I'm sure more details will come out and both sides will try to spin things. But hey, let the games begin. You want to talk about starting off trade season with a bang? I think this week's going to be super crazy. And so I'll be here to cover all the big trades, Warriors, non-Warriors stuff. So hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.